So, welcome, 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 gorgeous souls, to Live Your Best Life. We have the most delightful, delicious, and gorgeous Tamsin Williamson with us here today. Yay! Tamsin.
Hello.
Tamsin is a life and mindset coach for mums. You might also know her as the parenthood coach as well. She is a holistic life and mindset coach and mentor who loves to support mums to reconnect with their passion, purpose, and potential after having kids. What a fabulous thing to be thinking about and to offering, because it is so needed. So yeah, gosh, thank you for doing that work. Um, what would you love to share with us, my darling? A little intro, anything you would love to add, so people can get a little Tamsin flavor.
Ooh, no pressure.
You'll be gorgeous, I have
Oh,
no doubt.
well, it is really lovely to be here. We were just sort of saying before how it is always such a lovely experience when Kat and I see each other and get together. We do a lot of like trying to arrange get-togethers, and
Don't we just?
it's not quite aligning sometimes. So when it happens, it is always very special. And yeah, it's great to be here. And as Kat said, I am a life and mindset coach and mentor for mums. And the reason that I do this is because of, for so many of us, I'm sure it's the same. You know, I had a very profound experience myself when I had my kids. And I was like, this has been really kind of shit. It has been really
Say
rough.
it like it is. Yes,
Say it like
bring it.
it is. Like,
Yes. Yeah.
like, of course it wasn't all shit. Of course it wasn't. But there were some really, really tough parts of that. And less about the motherhood piece actually, and more about the experience that I had inside myself as myself. It really shook everything up for me, and kind of reconciling the kind of who I was or who I am versus this kind of brand new identity. Um, it felt like a complete minefield for me to kind of reconcile those and pop out on the other side feeling like, my most connected self and feeling like I really knew who I was and what I was about. Things just stopped making sense. So, yeah, so I kind of went very much on my own path to try and figure this stuff out after quite a lot of time of just hoping it would fall back into place. And that process was one of the most enlightening experiences that I've had in my whole life. And I kind of realized the more conversations I had with people, the more open I was about it, the more I shared what I'd been through and what I'd been experiencing with other people, realizing that I was so far from alone.
Mm.
And that kind of opened up my next chapter for me, where I realized that actually what I was doing professionally, the way that my life was looking at that point, needed a whole load of reshaping. And so I did that. And that really involved kind of going on and helping other people do the same for themselves,
Mm.
and to kind of support them to realize that motherhood doesn't need to kind of be so bloody hard. It doesn't need to be an ending, but rather it actually can kind of open so many really exciting and joyful doors for ourselves and so much opportunity. So that is kind of at the core of the work that I do, really. This piece around connecting mums with their passion, their purpose, their potential. It's like find out who the hell you are, who you want to be,
Mm.
and build that confidence and that conviction in yourself to go out there and be that person. And it's not about abandoning sort of your kids. It's not about
Yeah.
feeling that you have to, like, give up being the mom that you want to be or feel guilty or selfish about doing that. It's about doing it in integrity so that you get to kind of honor both of those roles to your full capacity.
Yeah. I guess it's about like we can have it all, right? And I think often we can feel that we have to compromise or we have to
Mm.
wait. I think the waiting is something I definitely have witnessed in others and
Mm.
experienced myself. That thing of like, okay, so I'm a mum now and I'm doing this thing, so maybe this whatever I'm doing now doesn't feel so great, but I'll wait until da, 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 da. That's
Mm.
definitely what kept me in teaching longer than I would have liked to have stayed in it, because I say it's easy, and it was easy because I'm putting it in like little inverted commas, because actually it didn't feel easy because the fit wasn't great,
Mm.
but it fitted around motherhood, right? Because there was always someone who could look after the kids in the summer holidays without having to ask a million favors and
Mm-hmm.
all the things. So I think that kind of that transition where you go into motherhood and things start to maybe feel like a wrong fit, or you
Mm-hmm.
start questioning things or start seeking that there's something else for your purpose, your passion,
Mm.
your potential. You can actually just go, oh, like, oh, it can be that I'll do that when, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's such a dangerous way to live, isn't it? Because if we pop so many things in, I'll do that when, it's like, well, when does the when like really happen?
Totally. And I do say this very often to my clients. I kind of catch them in this very like black and white thinking space where it's like, well, there's only two options. There's either the where I am now or there's the where I want to be. And people can be in a really big old rush to get to where they want to be, which very often when we rush to get there, it's never a particularly enjoyable journey to get
Mm,
there. And actually, there are so many shades of grey that lie between those two places. And I'm always reminding my clients, like, you might not be there yet. You might not get there for a little while. You might get there and realize that after a period of time, actually, something new's dropped in and you maybe want to actually reroute and head in a different unexpected direction. But it's this piece around sort of allowing yourself to enjoy the journey, enjoy the ride, to realize that all of those little kind of stepping stones, those breadcrumbs that you can follow, that is the getting there. You don't have
mm,
to wait until you've got all your shit together to actually land at the end. All of the process of getting your shit together, every single little move and tweak and gesture and experience that you have is valuable. And
mm.
every single one of those will then open up your awareness to what the next one is and what the next one is. And, that kind of cumulative process of evolving, like that is something to go into with your eyes wide open and to enjoy it as well.
Yeah, yeah, gosh, totally. I teach this a lot now, that whole thing of like, we only know now, don't we? We only know right here, right now. So
Mm,
even if what's required is a big lifestyle change, a big career change, which can feel a lot, right? We're not
hmm
underestimating or undervaluing and underplaying like how that can feel to people.
hmm
However, if we like get too caught up in the far away piece, like you're saying, like it's the destination, right? Instead of
mm,
that enjoying the here, the right now, the journey, the pieces, the breadcrumbs, like you say,
mm,
then what we're in danger is like missing out on like a chunk of life, right?
hmm
And I think when we get too caught up in the thing, then there are like real simple pleasures that
mm.
we forget to notice, or
Yeah.
we just maybe we're just like the lens is not right, we're blinkered away from it's do you know what I mean? It's like we're
Mm,
blocked from it because we're so caught up in this destinational piece. And you know, like life is too precious for us to be like just being in that space of it's only
Mm.
okay when
When?
it's only gonna be a great fit, like if dung dung and dung have happened, you know. But like you say,
Mm.
like, you know, when we're maybe trying to activate some change for ourselves, it can be a long journey. It can take the step after the step after the step after the step
Mm.
after the step. And so finding ways to like feel that experience, feel the joy, feel
Mm.
the fulfillment, feel the pleasure, you know,
Yeah. Do
like
you know
it
what it's
makes all the
making?
difference.
It's making me think about like enjoying your favorite meal, right?
Right. Yeah,
It's
yeah,
literally
yeah.
like the way that we're talking about this, you know. And like when you've like got like a delicious, amazing, like for me, it's like the best burger that you're ever gonna have. And you see it and you're like, oh my God, it's amazing. And you kind of just want to like, especially if you're hungry, you just want to like gobble it up.
Yeah.
And you get to the end and suddenly it's gone and you've blinked and you've eaten the whole thing. And sometimes it's a bit like, oh my God, it's over already.
Yeah.
And actually, this process of like, whereas if you go in and eat the burger, but you eat it like, you really value the experience, you savor the smell, you savor every mouthful, you really enjoy the experience. Like, you get to the end and that memory or that experience, the sense of satisfaction that you get at the end of it is a very, very different one. And excuse the like random analogy,
I absolutely love it. And
but it just is
it's
what
giving
came
me
in my
all the
head.
visuals.
Yeah, it is, and all I want now is to eat a burger. But I think that that's it. I think that we can be in such a damn hurry. And I
Mm,
think particularly when we've got kids and we're in the thick of motherhood, time feels really precious. And we can get really caught up in the destination and put a lot of pressure on that. But we can also get really fearful that the precious time that we have is going to be wasted. So you can get into that state of like, oh, I could try doing that thing, but what if it doesn't work? What if it's a
mm.
waste of time? What if I fail? What if my expectations aren't met? Whatever, all of the kind of, the lack, I suppose, that can keep us really small. But by listening to that and not really taking those steps or not trying those things out, we end up not experiencing all the pleasure and the joy and the kind of unexpected satisfaction that might come from just giving ourselves that opportunity to try.
Yeah, and you know, and so much comes from trying anyway, doesn't it? You know, like just because something hasn't worked out this way doesn't
Mm.
mean that it hasn't contributed to what then happens further down the line, right? You know, like
Mm.
as you say that, I'm thinking about the things that I've done, the steps that I take, and some of the things since I've been a business owner have totally fallen on their ass, you know, like it does, and like you're nodding away because
Mm.
this is life, right? Entrepreneurship
Totally.
is like it's a roller coaster like life. And you know, if we waited for things to be perfect and polished and like we knew that it was going to be successful, then there's so many things we would shy away from or
Mhm.
you know, not kind of take the plunge with. And it like in the falling on our ass and it going a bit wrong or whatever, God, we
Mm.
learn so much, don't we?
Mm.
And then from like a thing of beauty can come from it, you know. So yeah, I think that real just you know just giving something a whirl because and that like just seeing the opportunity, seeing the plenty, being in the here and now as much as possible so we don't look back and go shit, I gobbled the burger, you
Yeah.
know. I didn't savor, you know, like it's such a great way for us to look at things with the burger, isn't it? You know, because it is like just savor, you know, life is a gift, isn't it? And
Mm.
we know that it delivers many different things to us. Sometimes
Mm.
a lot, sometimes less so, sometimes individually, sometimes for us as a collective, as a community in the
Mm,
world, you know.
yeah.
um, and many of these things are beyond our control of,
Mhm.
you know, actual like directly changing, shall we
Mm,
say. But
mm,
what is in control is how we respond, how we navigate, how we move, how we think, how we feel, how we talk around the things. And
mm,
just knowing that like gives you so much more life richness, doesn't
mm.
it?
Yeah,
You know.
completely agree. Completely agree. And there's like I was going to say, there's almost like a playfulness
Mm,
around that experimentation, around giving ourselves that opportunity to try or to trust or
mm,
to believe what's possible. And I think sometimes it's really hard to tap into that light, playful side of ourselves. And I would say that a lot of the women that I work with and I meet, they feel when we first meet the absolute opposite of playful and light, and
mm,
they feel heavy and weighed down and sort of a bit trapped. And raising kids and the kind of identity shifts that having kids and becoming a parent, becoming a mum can have on you, it can feel very stifling. But finding those ways to kind of unlock the playfulness, to release some of the weight so that you can experience those glimmers of lightness, like that's when you kind of suddenly can feel a bit less shackled and, give yourself that invitation to
yeah,
just
it's
give
permission,
yourself
isn't
that
it?
chance. Yeah, the
Yeah,
permission.
give
Exactly. That's
yourself
exactly it.
permission, permission to trust, really.
Yeah.
I think a lot of it comes down to permission to trust yourself. And when like I think all throughout life that there's things which have undone us, right? Or we've been
Mm,
conditioned into certain ways of thinking and being and believing. And a lot of these experiences can take away that self-trust. So when we want to kind of take the leap, it's like, oh, it feels, oh, I don't know. I'm going to have to ask all these people if they think because, you know, because that inner knowing, like it's just lost somewhere, you know.
mm,
I think we are naturally intuitive people, and I do think like some people probably have like a very dialed in, right, from the work
mm,
they've done, or maybe their like deeper sense of self. But I absolutely believe that we all have it in us, but so often it's kind of buried under these
mm,
layers because maybe something has gone wrong, and so we've got a bit of evidence that we use to go, oh well, like, oh, you know, when I trusted myself, then oh, it all went a bit wrong, so da da da. Or somebody has, you know, made us, or how they've behaved, we have felt in a like a different way around it, so then makes us go, okay, so when I did that, then they were like this, and then oh no, I
mm,
can't do that again because it doesn't feel safe. And you know, there's so many different reasons, aren't there? All valid,
mhm,
all absolutely, you know, all absolutely valid for any of us to feel like this. But I think the shift point is to realize that actually it doesn't have to be like that if you're prepared to dive on in. Can get a bit
mm.
dirty, right? When we go deep, it can get a bit dirty, and you know, it's
Yeah.
like, oh gosh, and in the mess and in the weeds. But God, if we're prepared to go in the weeds and like sit there and be with it and see why, the why behind, you know, like what makes it feel so hard to trust ourselves or to listen to
Mm,
our inner knowing, you know, and we can get past that like little mess, then it's like, like a whole world opens, doesn't it?
mm. It does. And I think when we talk about like doing that work and diving on in and, getting in the mess, I think it's also really important to sort of stress to people that it doesn't need to feel quite as scary and hard as it sounds,
Yeah, yeah,
because
yeah.
yeah, there are difficult bits, and and there will be discomfort along the way, but almost like trying to show how taking that path, it doesn't have to be, again, like all or nothing. It
Yeah,
can be a really gradual, gentle, safe pathway
yeah, yeah, yeah.
into this space, because I think so many people almost say stay stuck in that waiting game, and they stay stuck in the I'm not happy, but how do I get there? And they stay in that place of fear because it just feels too big and it feels too kind
Mm,
of messy and overwhelming. So finding ways to kind of pull apart what steps they need to take, and like finding those lighter, more intuitive access points that they can take to do the work without it feeling so hard. Because a lot of people,
mm,
they're like, I don't need anything, I don't need more hard things in my life, or I don't need
mm.
to feel more stress or pain or whatever. So yeah, I think trying to kind of, yeah, ease people through that process, even if it takes a bit longer.
Yeah, like every step forward is a step forward, right? Isn't
Yeah,
it? And the
absolutely.
thing is, if things don't feel good how they are, and if we don't take any action, then just and that, nothing does
Mm,
change, right? So
yeah.
we have to, I think, with anything where things aren't feeling how we want them to feel, like we have to be willing. We have to be
Mm,
willing to do whatever it is in whatever way it is to help life to look and feel different. And that can be, like you say, a really slow, gentle process for sure. It can be like a deep dive in and boom, whatever people want to do, it's
mm,
about I think the bottom line is the willingness. You have to
yeah.
be, if you're not willing to take the steps, then the steps aren't going to happen,
Yeah.
because all of this stuff that we do to help us really like see the richness in life, because life is a gift. She's an absolute freaking gift. I think we all have evidence around us of people that have gone too long, too soon, and people living in really, really extenuating circumstances, and where life is, you're in a safe place, shall we say, and there is potential around you, but you're not finding the way to step into it. It's like, just
Mm,
like allow yourself to be supported,
yeah.
because like what we do know is we have a finite amount of time.
Mhm.
So it's never too late. I always say it's never ever too late to activate any change. Never too late. I had a lady in her 70s who came to my workshop at Mind Body Spirit Birmingham, and at the end she said to me, "Oh, I'd forgotten how to laugh," and she said, "I'll never forget you." And I was like, "Whoa, but you came here, like that's incredible." So
Mm,
incredible that she brought herself to a laughter yoga and Reiki meditation
mm,
workshop. That's not going to particularly pull people in who have been finding it really hard to laugh, but she did. She chose, because she was willing
mm,
to go there. Her life
mm,
shifted, and all the rest of the
mm.
day we kept on bumping into each other and like really smiling. And I was
Yeah,
like, wow,
yeah,
because
yeah.
we can give up on ourselves, right? We can give up on ourselves, on our situation, and it's like it's never too late. It's never too late to let life come and give you a big smacker on the lips, and like
And who doesn't love that?
and a big squeeze and go, come on, darling, let's play.
Yeah, I
Um,
love that. And it sounds like she really like followed a nudge that
yeah,
she
yeah,
had, and it's like amidst a hard moment or a hard chapter or a hard, long period of time, potentially, there was something in her that said, I need this,
Yeah.
and I think listening to those nudges, and however like lost we feel or however disconnected we feel from our sense of identities, or we feel we don't know who we are anymore, there will always be nudges.
Mm.
And sometimes following those can, you know, open doors and welcome in opportunities that, yeah, could be life changing.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah. I visualize her. I can really picture her face, and I've seen thousands and
Mm,
thousands of people coming to my sessions, but people that come and share real specifics, like they're literally etched into my memory because I'm
mm,
like, wow, like
mm.
how different will other people's lives be because of that too,
Yeah,
because we're not
yeah.
singular people, we're here as part of many different collectives. So that ripple effect is,
Mm,
potentially enormous, isn't it?
it is.
I'd love to know, my darling. I've got some questions I would love to dive in with you.
Sure.
We've had some gorgeous free flow, which I totally love. But joy is my jam, and I know joy is like really, really important for you. So, in terms of like how you value it, how you prioritize it,
Mm.
what, yeah, what speaks to you when I ask you that? Is it something you value? I kind of know you do, but in terms of prioritizing it, because it's always
Mm.
really interesting to hear people's takes on it, because that can give people little nudges as to how they can prioritize it too.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, absolutely, I value joy. And I think I would say that I think I've always I've always had a good capacity to experience joy in my life, I would say. But
Mm,
I've also definitely been through darker patches, harder, more challenging periods where I've got very kind of bogged down in
mm,
particularly kind of worry and anxiety, that have made it feel so much harder to kind of reach it in the moments that I've needed it. But I would
mm.
say that I now, through a lot of the work that I've done, I would say that I'm very much like I experience joy with my eyes wide open.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of the way that I would describe it now. And rather than sort of striving for joy, or having to work too hard to experience it,
Mm,
I feel that it's kind of woven into my life now in a bit more of an organic way. And it's very kind of personal. It's not like big piss yourself laughing joy all the time.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Sometimes it's like just such a little inner glimmer and little giddy, reverberation that I feel inside me. It's sort of quite sensorial sometimes, the joy that I feel. Nobody else would know that
Mm,
it's going on. But I feel that there are these kind of touch points through my life, some of which I actively prioritize and make space for, and some of them they've just become how I live my life on a day-to-day basis, I suppose. So yeah, and it's really nice to think about it and to think about that and to sort of to feel a sense of ease around my relationship with joy now.
mm.
Whereas perhaps at other times of my life, it's felt a bit more scarce, or I felt a bit sort of stuck about how to truly bring it into my life or feel it.
Yeah, I love that, because I think building a relationship with joy is actually a huge shift that we can
Mm,
make with ourselves. Actually, seeing joy, like joy for me is a she. Having
mm,
like really seeing her and seeing her value.
mm,
And I think often people can think about joy as this big noise, right? Whereas actually, she's everything. So
Mm.
I love what you shared about that kind of inner glimmer that no one would particularly know about, because that is how she weaves her magic,
Hmm.
and I think where we can have maybe a disconnected relationship with joy is and this very much links into this, like the whenness of stuff, right? And the destination, okay? Is where we see joy as, oh, like she's this big thing here. She's like my friend's wedding, or she's my friend's 50th, or it's, like, oh, our family holiday, or, whereas actually, like, she's literally everywhere in the taking if we open our eyes. And I think you
Hmm.
said my eyes are wide open to
Hmm.
joy, and that's the shift point,
Hmm.
is expectation, when we're choosing to live with a lens of plenty and abundance, even when, and I really caveat this with, even when the shit is going on, right?
Yeah,
Which is possible, and this is how we can feel more regulated as humans, and like life can feel a bit more gentle, even when, right, is when we
definitely.
have that lens of joy, is, and you can replace this with like love, and like it, all of these energies, when we decide that it's not just this big thing, right? And that they can be in all the tiny, tiny, tiny little pieces.
Hmm.
That's when our lens changes, isn't it?
Hmm.
You
Yeah,
know?
definitely. And I think there was something that you just said then, um, about, my friend's wedding or my friend's 50th, and something around expectations, and
Yeah,
suddenly realizing that it's not like somebody else's responsibility to create your joy, but
yeah.
rather if you take on the responsibility yourself, or you recognize that actually it all exists, or the capacity for it is inside you already,
Mm.
you know, it could have a really positive ripple effect on, well, on the choices that you make, on the relationships that you form, but most
Absolutely.
importantly, on the way in which you understand yourself.
Yeah, and how you see yourself, how you see yourself
Hmm.
and your place in the world. And
Mm.
I think, for anyone that's listening, it's like, oh my God, but joy feels a million miles away. You can absolutely build your joy muscle.
Mm.
It's about really, really paring things down, like simplicity, right? The simple things, like the power that they have for us to like feel differently, like actually are really, really huge. So, like the micro steps, the micro
Mhm.
actions that you can take to then build your joy muscle can absolutely like shift your view of joy and all that she can bring. And like I would say, like probably the first thing I would say to anybody is feel into gratitude, because
Mm.
gratitude and joy, they are a little marriage, they like dance together. So if we can even develop like just thinking every day one thing, just one thing that we feel grateful for, we
Mm.
will invite joy in just that little bit more. And like just a little shift, a little increment, a little kind of moving of that percentage up cumulatively, if we keep going, keep going, keep going, then it becomes a huge percentage, right?
Mm.
I think when we start in a thing, it can feel a bit challenging because it's
Mm.
not habituated. But this is that thing about the micro actions, that like not giving ourselves too many things so it doesn't feel
Mm.
overwhelming. Little step, little step, little step, little step, and it builds, builds, builds. It's like, okay, so what can I add in now? Like
Mm.
perhaps I'm going to add in another practice which will allow me to feel joy in my body, or perhaps I'm going to
Mhm.
bring in like three things I feel grateful for, you
Mm.
know?
Yeah, definitely. And I think for the women that I work with, who are mothers, I think really breaking it down into these super simple, accessible steps is absolutely key. So I think like what
Mm.
you're talking about here, like, is absolutely what those women need to hear. And I suppose, the this connecting, one thing that I'm grateful for today, I suppose a build on that is also thinking like, what am I grateful to myself for
Mm.
today? So that also strengthens your sense of like self-worth, and where you're kind of
Absolutely.
feeling joyful about your own value, you're appreciating yourself, celebrating yourself, rather than again like attaching your gratitude to other people or to sort of external factors. It's
Oh,
really like
bang on.
taking that responsibility
Yeah.
for your joy and for what's good in your life on for yourself. And that's bloody empowering.
Oh, it really is. And I am a massive advocate of self-celebration.
Mm,
And I would say typically it's the piece that my clients find the most confronting and
mm,
challenging.
mm-hmm,
And always the pieces that are most confronting and challenging, they're the ones that actually we really need to look at, right? So
mm,
I lovingly hold, I lovingly remind, but self-celebration, like really allowing yourself to recognize something. It doesn't have to be like with all of these things, it never has to be big. And I think this can be what like gets in the way because we're trying to find
mm,
like the right thing. I've had like circles where we're sharing and clients have shared, oh, I don't know if I've got enough to celebrate. It was like, there's no enough. It's no enough.
no,
We can celebrate being on the call, right?
yeah,
Like it's and actually, like, that's downplaying that a bit because sometimes it's really hard for us to show up in a space, right? So that probably wasn't the best
mm,
analogy, but like we can celebrate like the tiny little pieces.
mm-hmm,
And again, like I talk a lot about building that muscle with your self-celebration. The more you do it, the more it comes to you and the more it comes with
mm,
ease, right? So
yeah,
and I think
definitely.
it's like such an important thing for, if we are mothers, parents, to then model to the
Yes.
kids because kids are pretty bloody great at that. And then a ton of school and stuff happens, and some of them lose that ability to do it and
Mm,
life and whatever. So, really modeling the
mm,
like receiving compliments, and not doing that kind of like that brush away and like celebrating something great about yourself is such a great thing to model out to everybody
mm,
around us. It's like this is how I expect to be seen in the world.
mm.
And like you go and do it too, right? Again, it's like
Yeah.
give yourself permission and others will go, oh, okay, I'm going to give myself permission too.
Definitely. And I think there's something also very powerful about being witnessed by somebody else, in that witnessing yourself, but
Mm,
also like, feeling like you're not just, sometimes you don't want to just be doing it on your own in your own head. Sometimes
yeah,
it's really nice for somebody to be like, "Oh my God, like well done you," or for you to be
yeah.
able to celebrate somebody else. And actually, just as you were talking, it's made me think about like some of the practices that for me have really helped sort of strengthen my joy muscle. And I've got a friend who is also another business owner, and we started off as accountability buddies, like I don't know, 3 years ago or something, and we've just become great friends. But
Mm.
one thing that we always do for each other on a Friday is we share our pits and peaks. We call them our pits and peaks of the week. And we share like the thing, and this isn't just about business, this is just in life.
Yeah.
Like what have your peaks been? What have been the highs of your week? What are the things that you're celebrating about yourself? Or anything at all that's felt good.
Mm.
But we do also like acknowledge the pits and the things that have felt a bit shitty, the things that have felt hard, the things that, whatever they are, anything that we would describe as a pit. And just the mere act of sharing celebrating each other's peaks, amazing. But there is something also about acknowledging our pits to each other,
Absolutely. Yeah.
and being witnessed in that. Very often, when you say them out loud, suddenly they don't. You feel a sense of like freedom and lightness and
Mm.
relief. Sometimes they don't feel quite as bad as they felt in the
Less charge.
moment.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
sometimes you can be like, and sometimes I'm like, oh, well, this thing happened and that was a pit this week. But now I understand this, or
Mm.
now I know that that's not right for me. And so I'm going to focus on something else. So very often it sort of feeds a more positive energy, or a kind of,
Yeah.
there's a lightening there through the experience of sharing it, through the experience of being witnessed, through the experience of kind of processing it intentionally. And I think that's made a massive difference to my mindset, I would say, when it
Mm.
comes to how I feel joy or positivity and how I experience it and welcome it in.
Yeah, we have to feel all the feelings. I mean, that's a
Mm.
key part of my joy work. It's like it's not about yay, let's all skip around, you know. Yeah, we can skip around. We can absolutely freaking skip around. We can also cry and bang our
Mm.
fists on the floor. That's
Mm.
exactly why in my membership we have a celebration and sharing circle. It's like
Mm.
let share what's great and share what's shit. And
Yeah.
in the sharing, in the owning, in the releasing, it does help shift it,
Hmm.
and like you say, to be witnessed, like to be held by others going, oh, yeah, okay, and or other people going, yeah, that's me, that's been me too, it's so
Mm.
reassuring because like all it is us in our humanness, right? But in our humanness we can feel really alone,
Mm.
and that's because we can sometimes feel obliged to just like, yeah, I'm fine, and and all the things. It's like, well, okay, actually, if we give space to how everything is, then
Hmm.
we work things through. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
so it's
Yeah.
like we were chatting before we were recording, and I was sharing how my week had been. It hasn't been rainbows and unicorns, but to share and to like expose and to have the dialogue around it, we had shits and giggles within minutes, right?
Yeah.
You know,
Absolutely.
and
Yeah.
it's just like it's allowing your voice to be heard and yeah, and feeling the things, right? That's
Totally.
it's so refreshing.
Mm.
I would love to do a little bit of laughter yoga with you in a mo. We will be wrapping up like pretty shortly, but before we do the laughter yoga, because you are such a legend at what you do, and I would love listeners to have as much support as possible.
Mm.
When joy feels a million miles away, like, have you got
Mm.
any go-to tools and techniques which you're like, oh yeah, this works for me? And like, I always ask this because everything's individual and personalized, but someone might
Mm.
listen and go, oh, do you know what? I'm going to give that a whirl. This is how I have added to my toolbox, listening to others and going, oh, I'm going to try that because I haven't tried it. So I just love to know like a few things that always are like like a Tamsin go to, and you're like, oh, thank God.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Well, as I said before, like so much of, for me, it's about the way it feels in my body. So I've
Yeah,
got a few, like, I suppose what I'd call more like embodied experiences, or my go-to things
yeah.
that I do that free me up and help me access that lightness and that joy. Things like riding my bike,
Oh,
like love. I feel like I get this sense of like freedom. It's like all my shit is just like flying on my coattails behind me as I'm going. And there's something about the sensorial piece around it. There's the kind of energetics of, getting some good energy flowing through, being outside in nature. Like it's a really great cocktail for me just to kind of create a bit of that joyful, giddy
mm,
energy. Um, I think being in the woods for me, like quite often, if I'm feeling a bit stagnant and heavy, I'll go to the woods, which kind of has the opposite effect of the riding the bike.
yeah,
Um,
more
it's
grounding.
grounding,
Yeah.
and there is something, there's a sort of awe-inspiring piece there for me, the kind of the just looking around and the wonder of nature, as
Mm.
cheesy as it is, you look
Which is
up
it?
and you
Yes.
see the
Yeah.
canopy of trees above you, you see the sun glistening through, you see the little bird hopping along the path or whatever. But
Yeah.
it's that presence and it's that grounding and it's kind of bloody hell, this is beautiful. And
Yeah.
it just kind of gives that lovely, it sends that lovely chemical shift in my
Mm.
body. Um, and then one other thing that whenever I feel like I need a release of some sort, I need to free up some good energy. I'm a massive fan of hot yoga.
Right.
And it's probably, I would say, one of the only times when I am fully in my body and my brain switches off.
Yeah.
And I sweat so
Oh,
much. And there is something about just this like completely unapologetic moisture,
yeah.
like leaving my body. And very often, like it feels like,
Yeah.
that's all my like
All
negativity
the
or my
shit stuff.
stress, and it's kind
Mm.
of being released. And I come out and I'm just like, I feel
Yeah.
like a kind of lighter, cleansed version of
Oh,
myself somehow. So those are some of the things that like
love that.
immediately come to mind, which give me different things. And actually, there's something there about me being like, what do I need today? Like,
Yeah.
what is it that I need? Is it the kind of the light, joyful energy? Is it grounding? Is it that I need a release? And so sort of having some of these different tools or techniques available that offer me something different but have a very kind of unified end goal for me. That's
Yeah.
some of the things that I love.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. Anything where you can move your body is a great way to shift energy, isn't it? So,
Hmm.
like nature, walking around in the woods, moving on the bike, moving with yoga, like just anything where you are actually getting that like momentum and movement into your body, it takes you out that headspace, doesn't it? So,
Mm.
and by so doing, it's like you're then in present moment awareness and not thinking
Mm.
about the 99 million things that maybe were whirling around your head. Um, I so resonate with a bike ride. We have to go in our next meetup. We have to go on a bike ride, right?
Let's do
Because
that.
like I am just an absolute bike lover. My bike was my friend from like a teenage. It got me to school, got me down the pub, got
Mm.
me got me, wherever I lived. When I was in Germany, I got a bike. When I was in Japan, I
Mm.
got a bike. Like I love a bike, so we need to get on a
Mm.
bike. And
It's a
it
date.
it's that whole thing is I think because my memory of bike riding as a teenager was just freedom and joy. So it just always delivers that kind of
Mm.
energy. So I guess for anyone listening, like what are the things that remind you of that kind of that childlike kind of freedom and play and um connection, so if you're not a bike person, maybe it's a walk, maybe it's a stroll, maybe it's a run,
Mm.
and
Maybe it's being
also
creative
yeah,
and,
yeah, exactly,
artistic,
yeah, 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 yeah,
certain songs or music that you love to listen to that
yes,
make you really nostalgic or
yeah, yeah, yeah,
take you back.
absolutely. And I guess the one thing I would add with that, like you said, it's really key to ask ourselves what we need. And I think
Mm.
also where there is a little bit of resistance, maybe get curious on the resistance. So
Mm.
the reason why I say that, because this happened to me this morning, because it was raining. I had my running kit on. Now I don't I can't remember. I might have done it once, but I've like if my running kit's on, I am bloody going running, right? And I was starting to talk myself out of it because I was like, oh, it's raining a bit and diddle diddle, and I could hear the narrative, and also actually some of it was in my head, and some of it I was sharing with my husband to see if I could get him on board. So interesting, right? Just because it was freaking raining, okay. And then I was like, do you know what? I'm recording pods. I've got these. I know this is going to, my evidence is it will do me a ton of good because I'm going to run along the brook. I'm going to get a bit of like tree and brook hit as I do it. I'm going to be outside, get my endorphins. And of course, it was a great idea. Really interesting to watch that 5 minute dance I did of like,
Mm.
oh, maybe I'll go because tomorrow is looking really sunny, right? But I'm like, well, I can go tomorrow as well. Okay. But what's the impact if I don't go for my run this morning? So I think it's always really interesting where we have habituated, where we've built in that habit. I know because now I class myself as a runner, not someone learning to. I know the evidence that it does me
Mhm.
good. So it's watching those sneaky little kind of cycles of like, because I almost went up and got straight in the shower and I was like, what the fuck are you doing? Like you're listening to, because the weeks felt a bit wonky for you, you're listening to that
Mm.
stuff going on in your head and you're letting that tell you what to do. Come back to yourself. And I was like,
Mm.
I am coming back
Get
to
out
myself.
there.
And I had a really bloody gorgeous run, you
Good.
know? So it's
Mm.
like it's just ask yourself the question and also like just check in with like if there's a little bit of resistance, like how
Mm.
big does it feel? My resistance, sometimes it's huge, right? And sometimes that's very valid and that's okay. And then it's like, well, what
Mhm.
else would feel like? But my resistance was me coming up with an excuse. It was like, nah, that's not
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 good
gonna work.
enough.
Not gonna work. Right, my love. I would love us to wrap up with some laughter breaths. I love to share these with my guests. I know you are aligned with laughter, and I love people to also feel that energy and feel the opportunity as we've talked, whether like maybe some things have come up and it's like, okay, it's a great way for us to release, okay, and feel
Okay.
like a really beautiful kind of close. So we're just going to breathe in and then we'll exhale with laughter. We'll do it probably for, I like three, so we'll probably do 3 rounds. Does that feel good?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Feels great. Yay, this is such a nice surprise.
Oh yeah, I forgot to tell you. Ah,
Surprise! Surprise!
right. So let's take a big breath in and exhaling. Breath in and exhaling. Ah, ah. And one more. Breath in and exhaling. Ah, ah. Oh, beautiful. It's always a pleasure to laugh with you. Tamsin, you have been absolutely gorgeous, as I knew you would be. Um, I know everyone listening will have absolutely loved all the wisdom you've shared around the work you do. Before we wrap up, I'd love you to share how can obviously all your deets will be in the show notes, but if there's anything you want to share that you want to nudge people towards that will give them some insight into like purpose, passion, potential, all the things, then yeah,
Mm.
please do share away, my darling.
Thank you. Yeah, well, I'd love come on over to Instagram and give me a follow. I hang out on there quite a lot when I feel like it. I'm at the Parenthood Coach, and I would say a place for you to get a really good sense of what I'm all about and my energy and the kinds of conversations that I love to have is to come and check out my podcast.
Mm.
Kat has been a glorious guest on my podcast
Yay!
before. The podcast is called Do Your Thing, and it is designed to be an unapologetic celebration of motherhood in all its forms. So people who are raising kids, but also absolutely showing up in life, doing their thing in a way that makes them feel good. So ties in very nicely with what we've been talking about today and really inspiring stories, wonderful guests. And yeah, I would love to send you over there to have a little listen if you'd like to. And of course, if anybody listening thinks that, it would be useful to have a deeper conversation, if you want to get into doing some of that deeper work that Kat and I were talking about, then, please do get in touch with me, and I'd be really delighted to share more about how I work with my clients one-to-one.
Yes, amazing. Thank you so much for sharing that, my darling. And I can absolutely vouch for her podcast. It is fabulous. You've had an array of incredible guests on, haven't you? Including myself.
Of course.
So go and get some Tamsin in your ears and do give her a follow on Insta, because as you've heard and seen, she is an absolute gorgeous soul. So definitely, when we're thinking about where we spend our time and curating our feed, Tamsin is someone you want to have in it. So it has
Thank
been an
you.
absolute pleasure, my darling. Thank you so much for all you brought to this episode. It's been pure joy and an absolute delight, my darling. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. I've loved it.
Oh, bless you. Thanks, my darling.
Bye.